So good evening, everyone. So again, we'll start as usual, quieting our mind and bringing our mind in moment present by watching the breath mindfully. So let yourself make comfortable, relax. You feel the weight of your body on cushion or chair. And observe your breath as you breathe in and out mindfully. And be aware as you breathe in, being aware you are breathing in. As you breathe out, being aware you are breathing out. Simply just observing mindfully and being aware. If your mind gets distracted, you can always bring back the breath. Then we can think life is not as easy most time or all the time. There are a lot of challenges in our life that we face. And no matter how much challenges, difficulties, due to the external conditions, we can still find calm, peaceful, and joy within if we can work on our mind. By working with our mind, even the most difficult conditions, external difficult conditions, we can still find inner peace, calm, and happiness. And to be able to do that, we need to cultivate and improve our loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, patience, be satisfied and content in the wisdom. And to be able to generate and fully develop such positive state of mind, one need to meditate and practice correctly, continuously. And for that, we need to be reminded of those practices all the time. We need to learn, study more about them. For that very reason, that why we have come here. May coming here and listening, reflecting, contemplating. May all these become cause and conditions to develop those positive minds and to achieve our own highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can be most benefit and help to others and oneself. Okay.
To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being.
Can someone is Mary?
Yes. Can you hear me?
No, we can't. They can't hear us.
Oh, okay.
Because the volume.
Can you hear us now?
Now we can hear.
Oh, thank you
can
so
hear
much.
now.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry, everyone. Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The Heart Sutra, I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on Massive Vulture's Mountain in Rajagriha together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration of the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without a characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra for the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata Om Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Saji Puki Jushin Meto Tramri Rahapingji Nihidegen Padi Sange Hindu Mite Huai Drokunam Dajing La Choparsho Yidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryateami. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Jonchu Baru Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Jonchu Baru Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonen Gepe Sonam Gi Drola Penshir Sangye Druparsho.
관계 도전에 손에 더 던져 보면 담배 좀 Còn âm thế là lo. So I think last week we just finished verse number 38, and where the author, the Nagarjuna, says, in order to refute others' point of view, and then you should be able to establish your own view without any error. If your own view has error, then then just refuting others' view doesn't make so much sense. So then we are in verse number 39. So in the middle translations of Rapshishanin, cognizer precedes the cognizable. So cognizer is the subject, okay, the mind. And the mind that precedes cognizable, that is the object. Without the cognizable, there is no cognition. So without the object to be cognized, if there is no object to be cognized, there wouldn't be the subject, the mind that perceive or cognize that object. So basically here what Nagarjuna is saying, how the object and the subject, the mind and the object of that subject mind, they are mutually dependent arisings. Without the subject, they cannot be objects. Without the object, they cannot be subject. The subject, the mind, is cognizer because it is an object to be cognized. If there is no object to be cognized, it cannot be a cognizer. And without that cognizers, the mind, if there is no cognizer, the mind, subject, also that object cannot be object to be cognized because there is no subject cognizing it. And so therefore, they are mutually dependent arising. So that is, the cognizer and the object of cognizing, with the valid cognizers, unmistaken valid cognizer, and the object of that, they are dependent, mutually dependent arising. One cannot exist without the others. Therefore, why do you not admit? So of course, this is Nagarjuna or middle way school saying to the minor holy school that neither object nor the subject exists at all. So then he is saying, therefore, there's neither subject or object that can exist inherently. Not only the object do not exist inherently, but even the subjects cannot exist inherently. So he is saying, why don't you admit that? Because mind only school said there is no inherently existing object, external object, but they believe the mind, the cognizer, the mind to be subject, the mind to be inherently existing. So that is again specifically, refuting that mind only school of differentiating the external object not to exist inherently, but the subject, the cognizer, to exist inherently. So here Nagarjuna is saying, it not only the external object, but even the subject cognized, it also do not inherently exist. because the subject, if it inherently exists, the mind, the cognizer or the subject, the mind, if it exists inherently existence, then it doesn't depend on the object to it to exist. You get it? If it's inherently existing, it doesn't exist. It doesn't depend on other factors to it to exist. But without the objects, that cognizer cannot exist as a cognizer. Also, therefore, it's dependent on the object. Therefore, it can't be inherently existing. Therefore, not only the object, but also subject do not exist inherently at all. So then here is so that is one of the unique of the Nagarjuna, mutually dependent arising. There is self because there is others. There's others because there is self. If there's no others, then there is no sense of self. If there is no self, then there is no existence of others. They are depending, mutually depending here and there. We can only talk about the mountain there because there is here. If there is no here, there is no there. If there's no there, then we cannot say this part is here. They are mutually dependent on it. Because there is here, there is there. Because there is there, there is here. Because there is small, there is a big. Because there is a big, there is small. Depending arising. Because there is tall, there is short. Because there is short, there is tall. Short, we can say something short in relation to something that is big. We can only talk about something big in relation to something as something short, And so therefore, everything is, there's nirvana because there is samsara. There's samsara because there's nirvana. What does samsara mean? Samsara means still being under the influence of delusions. And something we don't have to be under the influence of delusion, but still it is there. If there is no state that's free from all the delusions, the nirvana, you cannot talk about samsara, deluded state. And therefore, and there is nirvana because there is samsara. Because there is samsara, so the deluded state, through practice, you can overcome those delusions. You can clean those delusions. Thereby, you can achieve the nirvana. So therefore, there is nirvana because of it. So that is the how everything's dependent arising, mutually dependent arising. Therefore, everything's depend on other factors to exist as it is. Whatever that is, whatever that object is, to exist as that object, it depends on other factors. As I was mentioning last Sunday, sometimes we think, I'm a good person. Sometimes we think I'm a bad person. Sometimes we think I'm a good practitioner. Sometimes we think I'm not a bad practitioner, or same with others. That is good practitioner. That is bad practitioner. Someone we think we are smart, wise. Sometimes we think we are, so ignorant. But you are neither any of them. Neither any of them. You are neither wise, neither stupid. You are neither good, neither bad. You are neither, kind, neither you mean. We are kind in relation to someone who is less kind. We are not kind enough in relation to someone who is more kind. You are smart in relation to something or someone. You are not smart in relation to someone and something. So by yourself, you are neither of them. And by that understanding, when we understand that, then I think there is a lot of, you don't have to feel so arrogant or so, what you say, too arrogant or either too arrogant or too depressed by thinking, because you are either sometimes we think we are so bad, therefore we start to feel low about ourselves, low in ourselves. I'm such a bad person. Or self-hatred or depression. Why? Because we think I'm so bad. Or sometimes we think we are so smart, so wise, and so kind, compassionate, then we might feel egoistic. We might feel so delusional pride. We might feel arrogant. And all of them, but in reality, you are neither any of them by itself. It's only in relation to others. So that is so. Therefore, okay. The mind is but a mere name. Apart from its name, it exists as nothing. So the mind, the cognizer, the mind, do not exist from its own side by itself, or inherently exists, is merely name, merely imputed, merely imputed. The way the mind exists, due to coming together of the parts or the basis, then on the basis of that is merely imputed, merely name. So view consciousness as merely name. So here, Nagarjuna saying to the mind holy school, you believe the mind to exist inherently from its own side, but not only the external object, but even the mind itself, the subject, the mind itself is also, exists only on the name, merely on level. Not only the consciousness is merely name, but even the name, even the label or the name that is given to the mind, even that name, even that label itself, name too has no instinct nature. Even the name do not have inherent nature. Even the name is empty of inherent nature. And so, when we realize how everything is merely name, merely imputed, how then when you say merely name, merely imputed, what it negates something existing from its own side or by itself. And when you understand things do not exist from its own side by itself, but it is only merely name, imputed, then as you mentioned, you don't have grasping, clinging to the object. And you don't have that clinging and grasping to the objects, then there is no attachment, no aversion, and other delusions. That is why all this concept, how empty of everything being empty of infinite existence, how everything is merely name or imputed. When you have that realization of that concept, spiritual realizations, then there is a huge difference in whether you cling to the object or not. And if you don't have clinging and grasping to the object, then you don't get aversions when you see any objects, unpleasant. If you see any pleasant or any object appear attractive, pleasant, you wouldn't get attached to it. If any object appear to you as unpleasant, you will not have a disliking, aversion, or anger towards it. And so that is the whole reasons to talk about it, to reflect, to contemplate, to meditate is to really to let go of any clinging and grasping to the object. And when there's no more clinging and grasping to the object, and there is no more of those delusions. So that is the main. I think next one, it would means 41. If you try to find the mind, the consciousness recognizes. If it is inherently existing, or if it exists from objectively from its own side, when you try to find, then you should be able to find somewhere. But again, if you try to find, you cannot find either within the part of the mind that makes the mind, the consciousness, within the mind, as we discussed last time, as Nagarjuna, whatever consciousness mind is made out of many moments. Earlier moment is already gone. The future is yet to arise. The present is already there. Even the present first part is gone. Second part is the third part is to come. Even the present moment, the moment you point out, it is gone. So when you try to find, you cannot find within each of them. Each of those moments is like not mine. Because each of those moments cannot have the function of that mind, or cannot, it doesn't have each of those moments individually. Each of those moments does not have the function of that whole mind, and so therefore, you cannot find within that part of that mind. Likewise, without, or outside, as in Jimba's translation, neither you can find that consciousness outside in the object, okay, or somewhere in between, nor you can find that consciousness in between the object and the subject itself. For example, my eye consciousness that is perceiving the computer, iPad. Neither, if you analyze and try to find, neither the eye consciousness you cannot find within these objects, within the eye consciousness, within this iPad, nor you can find with each of the part that make that eye consciousness within, nor you can find in between the object and subject. So therefore, when you do that, you cannot find, therefore it cannot exist inherently. Therefore it is empty of inherent existence. Therefore, the mind is empty of inherent existence. So again, you can see with each verses, you use different reasoning, different different way of analyzing, whether it can be found within the part of consciousness itself, whether it can be found outside within the object, whether it can be found within that. I think this kind of analysis also used in Shantideva's chapter 9 in Bodhichitta way of life, The conqueror have never found the mind. So the Buddhas, the conqueror, when they try to analyze the mind, where is the mind? With that kind of analysis, with that kind of ultimate analysis, then, even they cannot find, it was not to be found. Even though they cannot be found with that kind of analysis, but still, that mind does appear, the mind does appear to exist inherently or from its own side. Even though in reality, even they cannot exist Because they cannot found when that analyze, you cannot find, therefore it can't be inherent existence. It's empty of inherent existence. Even it's empty of inherent existence, but due to many imprint from the past, the mind appear to exist inherently. Therefore, so the mind has the nature of illusion. Therefore, the mind is like an illusion. Therefore, the mind is like an illusion. Illusion is something, the way it exists and the way it appears, there's a difference. Things appear something else, and the way they exist in something else, that is the illusion. The same way, therefore, the mind appear to exist inherently, but is empty of inherent existence. Even though it is empty of inherent existence, but it appeared inherently. Therefore, it's like an illusion. Why does it appear inherently? Because of very strong imprint from the previous delusion, and especially the ignorance. That is due to that imprint. That is that appearance. Very strong imprint. Next one, I wonder it might be the nature of the mind, explaining nature of the mind. If you analyze the mind, what is mind? It has no color, it has no shape, unlike like external physical world, objects. So distinction of color and shape, that mind do not have any kind of color, any kind of shape, any kind of size, or that object and subjects, of male, female, or neither. The mind has no such fixed form. In other, or one way of thinking is, when you try to analyze what is color, what is shape, when you try to analyze what is object, what is subject, when you try to analyze what is male, what is female, and what is other genders, neither, the mind has no fixed form, When you analyze, none of all these objects exist from its own side as it is. Male, female is just a, good conceptions, by mind. There's nothing inherently existing male and female. It's just a human beings. But then the conception, the mind, put, oh, this is male, this is a female, this is another gender, and this makes us distinguish by conception. Same is subject and object, There's nothing subject object by itself, To give you an example, my eye consciousness that's perceiving the, the iPad. That is neither subject or object by itself. It is subject in relation to perceiving this object. But then there is another mind that perceives that eye consciousness. In relation to that eye consciousness is object, not the subject. Do you get it? So there is eye consciousness that's perceiving this object, okay? In relation to these objects, the eye consciousness is subject, perceiving. But there is another consciousness that perceives that eye consciousness. In relation to that, it is the objects, not the subject, because it's the object of that consciousness. So therefore, that is neither subject and object by itself. Are you clear? The same, so subject, objects, everything is like that. So that is why nothing can exist from its own side as subject and object by itself. Everything is, yes. No. It's not talking about the moment. Whatever mind or subject there is, any kind of mind, there is a mind that precedes that mind. There is a mind that precedes, okay? So that there is a mind that precedes the I consciousness. In relation to that, the I consciousness is the objects, because it's object of that mind. So that's not the subject. So it can be subject, it can be object. It can be subject, it can be object in relation to other factors. But by itself, you cannot say it is a subject or object by itself. It can be subject, it can be object, depending on other factors. Mm. 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 And you know, the clear light mind or has no such fixed ideas or form, but those fixed object ideas are put by our conceptual mind, our conceptual mind, say all this fix and gives all these levels. Mm? And then this is verse number 49. Okay. And so in brief, Buddha have never seen, or all the past Buddhas have never seen, that the mind or the objects or all phenomena to exist inherently, nor will they ever see such mind, nor will they ever see the mind to exist inherently in the future, nor they are seeing inherently at the moment, So neither they have seen in the past, nor they will see in the future. Neither they are seeing inherently existing mind at the moment. If the Buddha does not see inherently existing mind, so how can they see instinct nature? And that which is devoid of intrinsic nature. Intrinsic or inherent nature, that's the same meaning, So therefore, there is no inherent nature. If there is inherent nature or intrinsic nature, inherent existing, it will be something Buddha will have to see it because they are the omniscient. If the Buddha cannot see it, then that means it can't exist. If the omniscient mind cannot see it, that means it does not exist. This is another kind of reasoning and logic that Nagarjuna is using here. And I guess this kind of logic works when you are debating with like a minority school where they all believe in the Buddhas. They all said this is omniscient. And so in that cases, it works, but maybe someone who doesn't, maybe this logic might not work for others, But for them, it is because they all have same belief or understanding that, the Buddha is omniscient. So here's what Nagarjuna said, Buddha's omniscient mind has not seen inherent nature, inherent existing mind in the past, nor there is not future. Therefore, the mind cannot be inherent existing, because if it does inherent exist, then it has to be seen by the omniscient mind, but it's not the case. So, entity is a conceptualizations. These translations, entity. Here, in the other translation is translates a thing. A thing is a construct. So in Tibetan, it's ngopo, and it can mean different things in different ngopo. Sometimes mean functioning object, functioning things, impermanent things. Sometimes it can mean entity. Sometimes it can mean mental constructive elaborations, that is created by your ignorance, such as dualistic views, So here is more thinking of that, the thing or entity is construct or conceptualization. It is something that ignorance and that deluded mind construct, inherently existing self, inherently existing mind, inherently existing objects, phenomena, Even though there is no inherently existing self, mind, phenomena, but your ignorance, that mind, construct that. Your ignorant mind construct that. Your ignorant mind construct, there is inherently existing self. There's inherently existing mind. There's inherently existing objects. That is what that, Absent of conscious life and emptiness. And when that construction by that ignorance is absent, when there is no more constructing or conceptualizing that things exist inherently, and when it's absent of that, that is the emptiness. When there's no more of such, constructions, believing or perceiving things to exist inherently as the ignorant construct, So, yeah. Where conceptualization occur, how can there be emptiness? As long as there is that conceptualization, as long as there is constructing of that inherent existence, then you cannot have realization of emptiness. One cannot have realization of emptiness as long as you have that kind of the conceptualizations or the constructing things to exist inherently, the self to exist inherently, then we cannot have understanding of emptiness of self. As long as your mind is constructing or conceptualizing the mind to be inherently existing, you cannot have understanding of emptiness of the mind. The same with any object, all the objects, And so therefore, how can there be emptiness? In also other ways, as long as there is that, construct of inherent existing self, then, you cannot have the absence of that. If you don't have absence of that inherent existence, then there is no, how can there be emptiness? Because emptiness is empty of inherent existence. When we talk about emptiness, we are talking about empty of inherent existence. Those two are opposite. Mind in terms of perceive and perceiver, this is Tathagata have never seen. Also, this exactly, yeah. Here, according to the commentaries, it referred to the result on the path, Mm. Receiver or the mind, to be the result, and perceive to be the path. And so, nor the result of your path is, nor the path that lead to the result, neither the path that lead to the result, nor the result of that path, the fully enlightenment, nor it exists inherently. So the path is empty of inherent existence. Also, the result of that path is also empty of inherent existence. Both the path and result, has been never seen as inherent existence by the Tathagatas, the Buddha, and they are empty of inherent existence. Where there is perceived and perceiver, there is no enlightenment. As long as there is a grasping of the path and the result of the path, the enlightenment, to grasp, as long as there's a grasping to exist inherently, then there is no enlightenment. There's no way one can achieve enlightenment. As long as there's a dualistic view, there can be no enlightenment. Therefore, in order to achieve enlightenment, then one should be able to be free from the dualistic view. And of course, when you talk about dualistic, then there are many different levels of dualistic. When there's appearance of inherent existence of the object, that is dualistic. When there is the appearance of subject and objects, so here perceive and perceive, separate perceive and perceive the object and the subject, that is also dualistic. Also, as long as there is the appearance of the conventional object, also is dualistic. So the mind that perceives emptiness directly, and that is in deep meditative equipoise, in that mind, all these three dualistic views dissolve or disappear. In that mind, the mind that realize emptiness directly and that in meditative equipoise, in that mind, there's no appearance of inherent existence of the object. There's no appearance of the subject and objects, and there's no appearance of the relative object to that mind. The only appearance that is in that mind is only empty. So, without achieving that mind, that receive emptiness directly, and there is no enlightenment. And in order to achieve that, that mind perceive emptiness directly and that material question, one had to be free from such dualistic views. 46. devoid of characteristic and originations, devoid of substantive reality and transcending speech, space, awakening mind, enlightenment, possess a character of non-duality. Here it might be talking about the Namtar Goswam, three door to the liberations. And that is talking about the devoid or emptiness of, inherent existence of cause, inherent existence of result, inherent existence of the nature itself. So devoid of inherent characteristic or inherent originations, and devoid of substantive. So these are three door to the liberations, three emptiness. Such reality, the three emptiness, which are the three door to the nirvana, are transcending speech. Those, the nature of the emptiness, the true nature of the emptiness cannot be expressed by the word. It's beyond the word. The experience of direct realization of emptiness, the direct experience of direct realization of emptiness, or even emptiness, is beyond conceptual mind, beyond the words. Therefore, is transcending the speech, transcending the concept. You can talk about emptiness. You can talk about the experience of direct realizing emptiness, but it is not, the word cannot describe, the concept cannot describe exactly how someone experiences when they experience. It's something one have to experience directly. That experience and that emptiness is something beyond the concept and the words. So that is what transcending the speech. Space is like a space. Emptiness is like a space. Emptiness is spoken, or emptiness is compared with space a lot of time, because the concept is very similar. In when you talk about space, again, I don't know what is the definition of space in normal vocabulary. Here we are talking from the definition that you find in a Buddhist scripture. In those, the definition of space is something that is absent of something that is absent of construct, what you call abstractions, and something tangible. So it is something that is mere absence. Is mere absence. Hok means, something abstract, and rek is something touchable. Like this, abstract. For me, moving forward, you can touch. So space is something that's mere absence of that. Mere absence of something touchable, something abstracting. When we describe our emptiness, it's the same thing. Emptiness is a mere absence of inherent existence. Do you get it? When you talk about emptiness, it's a mere absence of inherent existence. Therefore, when you describe the space and the emptiness, similarly, they both describe something mere absent of something. mere absence of something. So that, therefore, that is like a space, and also when we do it might come later, in meditation on emptiness, there are two kinds of meditation on emptiness. Space like space like emptiness meditation and illusion like emptiness meditation, and there are two different. And in the meditation of space like emptiness, when you meditate on a space like emptiness, then you just meditate on mere absence of inherent existence. Mere absence of inherent existence. You go through certain reason and logic, and then lead to a point where it is mere absence of that inherent existence, and you try to keep your mind in that empty space of mere absence of that inherent existence. That is space like emptiness. Whereas illusion like emptiness is where things appears, different objects, different things appear, but they are like they do not exist the way it appears to our mind. They are like an illusion. So that is a space, yeah. Awakening mind and enlightenment. So awakening mind, that is the path, and enlightenment, the result. Okay. The awakening mind, the path, and the enlightenment, that is the result, possess the characteristics of non-duality. So even they are empty of inherent nature. They are free from dualistic of inherent nature. The path, the result, they all are empty of inherent nature. They are mere absence of inherent nature, just like space. So not only the object of attachments, anger, aversion, not only they are empty of inherent nature, not only the delusion are empty of inherent nature, even the antidote, the path to free from the delusion is also empty of inherent nature. Not only the path, the antidote is empty of inherent nature, even the result of that path is also empty of inherent nature. Even the result. And so therefore, not only we shouldn't be attached to all these external objects, internal feelings, emotions, experiences. Also, we shouldn't be attached to the path. Also, we shouldn't be attached to the result of the path. When we start getting attached to the path, then that becomes a problem. A lot of religious problem is because of that. We become attached to our path, our religion, and then we quarrel and we fight with each other. Why? Why you quarrel? Why you fight? Because of attachment to individual path. And so therefore, one shouldn't be attached. Even the path is great. It leads us to free from the samsara and liberation. But even that, one shouldn't be attached to that, and nor the result itself. So yeah, they all possess the non-duality, character of non-duality, because they all are empty of dualistic of inherent nature. Those abiding in the heart of enlightenment, such as the Buddhas, great beings, the Buddha or the Bodhisattvas, the great being, the Bodhisattvas, who follow the path to become enlightenment, and all with great compassion one, and those all others, Bodhisattva, none other Bodhisattvas who have great compassion one, always understand emptiness to be like a space. So, as I mentioned, so when you start meditating on emptiness, first you try to meditate on space like emptiness. You know? And when one's meditate on space like emptiness, especially when someone have direct realization of emptiness, when they have direct realization of emptiness, and when they come out of that deep meditative equipoise, after being a meditation on space like emptiness in a deep meditation equipoise, when they come out of that, then all the objects appear to their mind. Okay? They see things, they hear things, they smells, they taste something, they touch. Whatever object that appear, they appear, but they appear like an illusion, not like a concrete and inherent like at the moment it appeared to us. Everything appears more like an illusion, like a dream state, like an illusion. And so when things appear more like an illusion and dream state, like an image of something in the mirror or in the lake, then even if there's appearance, you don't have the grasping, because of that. But for beginner who doesn't have that direct experience, when you come out of that meditations, when you see it will appear in hidden existence, you hear everything. But in that sense, we have to remind ourselves they are like an illusion. Because appearance doesn't come naturally like an illusion like. So we have to remind ourselves they are like an illusion. Everything that you see is like an illusion. Everything you hear is like an illusion. Everything you smell is like an illusion. Everything you taste is like an illusion. Everything you touch is like an illusion. Everything that comes in your mind, object of your mental consciousness, everything is like illusion. So we have to remind ourselves they are like illusion. So that is the difference. At the very beginning, we have to remind when we are in post-meditative sessions, when we are not in deep meditation, we have to remind. But when someone has a direct realization, they don't have to remind. Things appear when they come out of that meditation, things appear like an illusion. So that is always understanding emptiness to be like a space, as mentioned, mere absence of inherent existence. And at the very beginning, the focus of meditation should be on that. Meditating on emptiness like a space, mere focusing on the absence of inherent nature. Therefore, constantly meditate on this emptiness, okay? The basis of all phenomena. And this emptiness is the basis of all phenomena. Because from emptiness, that everything comes. Samsara, nirvana, due to not understanding emptiness, there is samsara. Due to understanding emptiness or realizing emptiness, there is nirvana. Samsara and nirvana come from the emptiness. Correct realization of emptiness leads to nirvana. Misperception about emptiness lead to samsara. In other words, also we can think, because it's empty, everything is possible. If it's not empty, nothing is possible, as Nagarjuna said. In emptiness, everything is possible. Because of emptiness, everything is possible. If it's not emptiness, nothing is possible. If it's not empty, everything becomes inherent existence. If everything is inherent existence, then it becomes static. Delusion is inherent, then delusion cannot be overcome. If the delusion are inherent existence, they will always remain delusional. If our delusion are inherent, we will always have that delusion. We can never get rid of them. But because it's not inherently existent, because it's empty of inherent existence, because it's not inherently existent, because it's dependent on many causes and conditions, when we change the cause and conditions, then things could change. And things become possible. Everything becomes possible. How can things be possible? It becomes possible when we change the cause and condition. When we change the cause and condition, the result changes. That make everything possible. If everything is inherently existence, then there's no way, by changing cause and conditions that it can change. Otherwise, it wouldn't be inherent existence. Because it would be non-inherent existence because it depends on cause and conditions. And so therefore nothing can be possible. But because of emptiness, then everything is possible. That was one of the arguments. When Nagarjuna says everything is empty, due to misunderstanding or not correctly understanding, then some of them make this argument. If everything is empty, then there's no possible Four Noble Truth. There's no possible of delusions, cause of delusions, the path and liberation. It is not possible for truth, is not possible, then there's no possible of the Dharma. If there's no possible of Dharma, there's no possible of Sangha. If there's no possible of Arya Sangha, then there's no possible of the Arya Sangha becoming enlightenment and possible of Buddha. Therefore, there's no possible of the refuge. Nothing possible. So that is the argument. And then Nagarjuna replied them, it's the opposite around. You haven't understood what emptiness is. You understood or you misunderstood emptiness to be nothing. That's why your argument comes. In my view, Nagarjuna said, in my view, because of emptiness, everything is possible. If it's not emptiness, nothing is possible. So he made that same argument back to them. And that is what argument, because of emptiness. So therefore, because of emptiness, everything is possible. Therefore, the basis of all phenomena. It makes everything possible. All phenomena to exist. The table, the possible of this table to exist, the possible of this flower to exist, the possible of this iPad, the Mac, myself, the possible of all of you to exist is because all of us are non-inherent existence. Because all of these are non-inherent existence, therefore certain cause and condition came, and then coming together with certain cause and condition produce the table, the mic, the paper, the flower, me, yourself, everyone. Why everything is possible, how everything comes into possibility of existence is because of cause and condition. If things are inherently existent, then that wouldn't be the case. That wouldn't be possible. So therefore, the basis of all phenomena, that emptiness. Tranquil, when you have that realization of emptiness, then you really find peace, inner peace, peaceful, free of all disturbing mind. Free of all disturbing mind. Because when you have a realization of emptiness, you free from the ignorance. When you are free from the ignorance, the delusion that arises from the ignorance does not arise, and therefore disturbing mind cease. And when there is no more disturbing mind, then there is only thing called peace. And all this, the emptiness of phenomena, all phenomena which are empty of inherent existence, like an illusion, like is like an illusion. You know, even they are empty of inherent existence. There is appearance of inherent existence. There is appearance of the object and it function. While it appears and function, at the same time is empty of inherent nature. Groundless. Groundless or baseless. You know. When you have realization and emptiness, you know, then there is no ground or basis to cling on, grasp, or to cling on, to grasp, to cling on or to grasp on, you know. And when there is no more base, because when you realize the emptiness, you realize the emptiness of that object. And when you realize the emptiness of that object, you know, completely empty of that inherent nature of that object, then there is no object to hold on. There's no ground, there's no base to hold on, cling on. And when there's no ground or base to cling on, then there is no grasping. And destroy the cycle existence. And that wisdom relies on emptiness is the destroyer of the cycle existence of samsara. You know. Samsara is suffering state. And suffering comes because of our delusion. And delusion arises because of our fundamental ignorance of inherent existence, grasping of inherent existence. And when you destroy the grasping of inherent existence by realization of emptiness, then there is no more other delusion arising from that. And when there is no more delusion arising, there is no more contaminated karma created. When there is no more contaminated created, there is no samsara rebirth. When there is no samsara rebirth, there is no samsara suffering. And then free from the samsara. Therefore, the emptiness or the wisdom relies on emptiness. The emptiness itself and especially the wisdom relies on emptiness is destroyer of samsara or cyclic existence. Okay, so I think today I will stop here. Any questions? I can take a couple of questions if you have.
Geshe, there's one on Zoom.
Okay, please, can you read that?
Amanda, go ahead and unmute.
Okay. So Geshe Sherab, you said there's no inherent existence of anything. And a couple of weeks ago, you said that there's no pilot of the aggregates. You said there's no pilot. So I was thinking, if there's no pilot, then what makes the action? So then I was thinking, is it just every moment we create karma and that creates a seed that's planted in the continuum, and then that seed ripens. And so that planting of the seed and the ripening and the planting of the seed and the ripening over and over and over, that's the action. As if there's no pilot doing it, is that how action happens? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think about the pilot, I think I talked at the very beginning of this class, not last week, I think many weeks ago, when we talked about the aggregate and the self as a pilot and aggregate as the car, the plane, so there is no separate self that is controlling, like the pilot controlling the transport. There is no separate self that is controlling the aggregates. There is no the self. There can't be a self that is totally separate from the aggregates. So that was one, and definitely. And today we talk about more than that, then no inherent existence. So again, your cautions, I think that is caution that is brought by many other Buddhist school of thought and non-Buddhist school of thought as well. As I might have mentioned, one of the earliest school of thought, some of non-Buddhists, one of the reasons they believe there is a permanent self is because they think if there's no permanent self, then how can one carry the karmic seed and from life after life? So therefore, there should be a self that carries the karma and experience the karma life after life, and that should be permanent. So, but that is kind of rejected as at the very beginning, as we talked about that kind of permanent self is negated from Buddhist point of view. So even there is no permanent self, but still impermanent self or impermanent consciousness can carry the karmic seed. You create each moment we create karma, and each moment that karma is planted in the mind, and that mind is ever changing, but there's continuity. So that continuity carry the imprint from one continuity to another continuity. Just like as I was saying about the water, that water carrying the leaf, okay? That's like the karmic imprint or the imprint. So each of those moments of the water is not same, but each moment of that carry that seed and that leaf. So similarly, one moment we create karma, that karmic imprint left in this moment of consciousness, and that moment move to the next moment and next moment, and while carrying this karmic imprint. So that is most of the schools, of the Buddhist schools, as I mentioned before. Some of the school, the mental consciousness carry that karmic seed. Mind only school, the mind basis of all alaya is the one that carry karmic seed. In Prasangika, Nagarjuna's point of view, is the merely labeled self that carry the karmic seed, or you merely label mind that create karmic seed, And if we talk from the Tantric point of view, then it's the clear light mind that continue, the more subtle mind that carry the karmic imprints. And so therefore, even there's no inherent existence, there's no problem with carrying the karmic seed. And then experience the karmic seed when other conditions come together in the futures. Actually, because of empty of inherent nature, that is what allowed the karmic seed to continue and carry and to produce the result. If it's inherent existence, then all this will be not possible. Everything becomes static. Everything stop there. Nothing move. Whatever has happened already happened. Nothing happened. It stopped there. Nothing changed. Nothing moved. But because it's non-inherent existence, therefore, one moment of karma, we are able to create karma, new actions. Not we were able to carry new actions, create new actions. That imprint of the new actions able to leave imprint in the let's say consciousness. And because it's not inherent existence, that consciousness is able to, move from one moment to the next moment, moment by moment, continue, move moment by moment, carrying the different imprints. And because of the non-inherent, if it is existence, then it will be not possible. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Oh,
in verse 44, it says, where conceptualization occurs, how can there be emptiness? In my struggles, I could look at Nancy, and I have a conceptualization of her, but I could let go of that conceptualization. But at the same time, I would still have a conceptualization. Sort of like I could do things like a flashlight. And I could point it at objects, entities, and see their emptiness without necessarily having to stop all conceptualization. I guess I was wondering if you had something to say about that.
okay. Thank you. In one of the sutras, Buddha says, whatever is emptiness of one object is same with all the objects. Okay. So if you realize emptiness of one object, then even though you do not realize emptiness of everything immediately, but when you have under realization of emptiness, whether it's self or actually one emptiness, then when you just move that reasoning logic to other object, then you don't have to use same reason and logic. So details or spend so much time. It's like, you understand this page is impermanent or emptiness, then you can say, oh, this is also like this. Oh, this is also like this. Oh, this is also like this. Then with any object, then you can see, just as you said, like putting the flashlight, and just like you put the flashlight to everything and you realize emptiness of all objects immediately. So the struggle is to have realizing the emptiness of one object. That is the thing. Once you have realization on the emptiness of one object, then it is very easy to have a realization of emptiness of all objects. Once you have one correct realization of one emptiness, whatever that object is. Yeah. And generally, in most of the teachings, they talk about, first it's better to have meditate on emptiness of the self, and then emptiness of other objects, such as your aggregate and other objects, starting with the self and then other phenomena. So anyway, yeah. So once you have realization of emptiness of one object, then it's very easy to have realization of all other objects. Emptiness. Not having realization of one object is the problem for us, or at least problem for me. Okay. And so, okay, so we'll do the dedications.
Gewadi nu dudak lama sangye dugyone drowachikam malupa Deyi Sala Go Pasho Joncho Sancho Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyurchik Ke Wa Nam Pa Me Pa Yong Gong ne gong du pel war sho. Sheila, it's the long life for His Holiness, the Gangri Rawe. No, the other one. Sorry. The new PDF I sent. All right. Anyway, we can do. Let's just do His Holiness, whatever one you have. Thank you. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And then for Rinpoche, it would be swift return.
I think it's okay. We just,
Okay, thank you.
so I
Thank you.
think sometimes I feel it's better to keep in your heart is just reciting the words, you know. Sometimes we recite the words and long words and you don't really feel it. But I think most is to keep in our heart for the swift return of Lama Tsolo Rinpoche, so we can continue to meet and be guided and on our path. Okay, thank you. Good night. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.